Now, before we get started, I would really love it if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get the latest content from the YouTube channel, The Last Rewind. And don't be shy about leaving your comments at the bottom of the page because you are the sole reason why this channel will be successful. Thank you. Well, welcome to The Last Rewind, and please make sure you get those likes up so we can hit the algorithm and you can keep getting this content. And boy, do we got a story today. It seems like LeBron James is pissed. I don't know if he's going through any roid rage or anything, but he is pissed at Stephen A. Smith. He confronted him last night at the Lakers New York Knicks game, and the Lakers won that game pretty good too. Overtime game. LeBron James played a great game, and Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson before he had that horrible injury to his ankle. But in the midst of that game, LeBron James walked to the sidelines and confronted Stephen A. Smith, and what I would say kind of looked like a Will Smith meets Chris Rock type of confrontation. No slaps were made in this confrontation. No physical hands were put on Stephen A. Smith, but it does appear that LeBron was visibly upset for comments that either Stephen A. did or did not make about his son, Bronny James. And so Stephen A. Smith, as we all expected, because the video went viral, and, everybody's talking about it. And, Stephen A. Smith is the new $100 million man. So as head chief of ESPN, he had to respond. It didn't even matter if he wasn't a $100 million man. Stephen A. was going to have to respond. It could have been Kendrick Perkins. And, that person was going to have to respond. So we're going to take a listen to what Stephen A. had to say, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on it, on was Stephen A. wrong? Was he right? Was LeBron wrong? Or was he right for confronting him? Let's add this video to the stage right quick.
Welcome into First Take on this Feel Good Friday. Thank you for being with us. Obviously, Stephen A., an incredible game last night in L.A. You were in the building, and we'll get to what that means for the Lakers and Knicks in just a moment. But, S.A., there was a moment in the game that we want to address.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son. Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing. I thought long and hard about this over the last few hours because I had no intentions, Molly, of talking about this at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it was a one-on-one, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it was a one-on-one confrontation. But then I wake up and everybody from ESPN and my agent and everybody else were sending me that this thing had gone viral. And so ultimately it was unavoidable, and that is why I have to discuss it now. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do. Instead, he elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, were sitting courtside. I was with them for the game. And he walked right up to me and he said what he had to say. And apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. Now let me tell you what I feel. What I would have said if we were in a different environment, because I was not going to engage in a confrontation at that particular moment in that setting. But if we had had that conversation, I would have said to LeBron James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you, meaning you, LeBron James.
All right, I'm going to pause it real quick. We're going to get to the rest of it now. Here's the problem so far that I have about this is I don't have a problem with LeBron James as a father going to protect his son. You know, that's what a parent does, mother or father. That's what they do. They protect their sons from negative critique. But what I have a problem with is if that comes with the job, this is a public job, an NBA basketball player. And every NBA player has a mother or a father. I mean, most of them. I mean, unless they're adopted by a grandfather or something like that. Outside stuff. But everybody has someone who wants to protect them and doesn't want them to talk negatively about them. So, if that is the case, if everyone that plays a bad game or is not up to par of being a great player in the NBA were to confront Stephen A would be dead. I mean, because this is his job. And it's not just Stephen A. This is every journalist's job is to critique an NBA player. Now, if he critiqued him in the manner that he critiqued, let's say, Kwame Brown, then you might have something to say. If he critiqued him and just say he is just straight up garbage, if he said one of those things and said he's not even fit to even dribble a basketball and he should just go back to where he came from, if he said like Skip Bayless would talk about Westbrook, no shot Brook, or whatever he called him, whatever the negative names he would call Westbrook or whatever. He called him these nicknames or whatever, or called him feminine or, stuff like that. Then I would understand, because that's outside of basketball. Now you're critiquing the man's manhood. That's understandable. But from what I remember, I don't remember any critiques from Stephen A calling Bronny garbage. He might have said he wasn't fit to play in the NBA quite yet, and that it's become a sideshow. It's become a circus with having Bronny James in the NBA, because all the people are going to focus on his skills or lack thereof, because LeBron James has put him in that position. Because let's just face it again, I've done a number of videos on this. It's nepotism. It was not skill that got Bronny James in the league. It was nepotism. We know that. And nepotism, I said, I don't have a problem with nepotism if the person is suitable for the job. If you're good enough and your dad has connects to get you that job ahead of someone else, by all means. But if you got a connect and you're not suitable for the job, it's horrible. This is like, okay, if your dad's a doctor and he has connects to get you to do, to work surgery side by side with him, but you're a horrible surgeon because you don't even know where the heart is on the left or the right side or in the middle. It's horrible. Nepotism doesn't work then. But if you are a great doctor, you're Doogie Howser, your house, or you're somebody from ER or Grey's Anatomy, then I don't care. That's great. Use nepotism to your advantage. But this is not an advantage for Bronny James. And that's all I've heard Stephen A talk about when it comes to Bronny, his skill set, or again, lack thereof. All right, let's get back to the video and see what else he has to say.
I have nothing but the best wishes for Bronny James. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he flourishes into an NBA star. Usually in other sports, we see all-stars, and on occasion, we'll see their children become stars as well. That doesn't really happen with the NBA. I sincerely hope he's the exception. By all accounts, he's a wonderful kid. And I don't know anybody who roots against him, and it certainly isn't me. But in the same breath, at the time that we were talking about him, he was percolating to such a degree that the Bronny James stories had gone viral. And so we had to talk about it. And when I said the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James because my attitude is he's a rookie. It's going to take some time for him to get himself together. He'll be just fine, especially with J.J. Redick and the staff coaching him. I was talking about the position that he was put in by his dad, because LeBron James has been on the record, and he has said, and I'll read the quote here. There was a quote that he gave in February of 2024. The work and results will ultimately do talking, no matter what the size. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what mock drafts say. He just works, earned, not given, et cetera, et cetera. But he also had said that his son could play on the Lakers right now, and he was better than half the dudes in the NBA.
Okay, let me stop it on there. See, it's okay for you to talk about other NBA players, critiquing them. Your son is already half better than most of the NBA players. He could play on a squad right now. It's okay for you to critique them because these NBA players, they got parents too. They don't want to be critiqued. But no one can critique your son. And your son is not 16 years old. He's 20, if I'm not mistaken. 20 years old. He's a man. Critique comes with adulthood. That's just life. You're going to get critiqued. And if you don't want to be critiqued, there's other avenues for careers you can take that are not as publicized as an NBA player. Be a businessman. I don't know. Own something. Work with Maverick Carter. You can do that. Go to school and earn a degree in something that, is not as publicized as an NBA player. But there's no way you're going to tell me LeBron James did not expect this. He's been playing since he was 18 years old in the NBA. And he knew the kind of critique he got in high school. And for, a lot of people to say, and, we can have an argument, agree or disagree, to say LeBron James is the most criticized player there's ever been, then you know what kind of criticism was coming towards your son. It's not just Stephen A. You could say social media. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say no one doesn't wish bad on Bronny James. There's those people, the pundits that are against LeBron James, and they say stuff bad about the son and like he gets what he gets. No, I don't wish Bronny James any harm. I don't wish him any depression. I don't wish him a bad career. But we know you go to the NBA and it's supposed to be a meritocracy. This is what comes with it. But it almost seems like, I'm going to get to that point in just a minute. I'm going to keep playing this. Hold on for a minute. I'm going to get to my next point.
In the aftermath of all of that, he instructed everybody before the draft that y'all want me, draft Bronny. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son. And when he talked like that, and what have you, anything that goes awry as it pertains to his son, there's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James because of his dad. And that's when I was talking about, come on, man, this is the situation that you're putting him in. That's where I was coming from. I could be a bit more outspoken about it, but to be quite honest with you, to be in that moment, to have LeBron look at me the way that he did, for me to be a father of 2 daughters, for me to know how much love fathers have for their children, and to hear what he had to say, it was all about his son. It was almost as if he was saying, you and I, because he and I don't necessarily vibe, it's high and by, we keep it moving. Neither of us lose sleep over it, and it's been that way for years. But it was like he was saying, keep that between me and you. Almost as if he was thinking that anything that I said about Bronny was a result of him. And in that situation, again, I wasn't talking about Bronny. I was really, really talking about him because of the position that Bronny was in. But I really understood where he was coming from. He was very, very upset. I could tell. He could have called me. I'd have came to see him. I'd have had a conversation with him. He could have been just as upset face-to-face, man-to-man, as opposed to being courtside at the game. I had no idea that everybody saw it until I woke up this morning. But it is what it is. In the end, like I said, I as a father, I get it. I'm not offended. I'm not insulted. I don't have any animosity or animus towards LeBron James for this. Nothing like that. I don't think he cares, but neither do I. I'm just stating fact. None of that exists. If I was in his position, I can't definitively say I would not have done the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming him one bit. I get it. I understand it. And there's a part of me that aches and hurts because of it. But unlike a whole bunch of people with their podcast and beyond that talk about the NBA, I covered the NBA. And it's my job to talk about the subjects and the subject matters that matter. I work for ESPN. I'm here. We have the #1 morning show for the last 13 years and counting. God has blessed us with that. There's a lot that's going on, and there's a lot of stories that are there to be told. And I just feel it's necessary to remind people, Molly, I was raised as a journalist. Let's be very, very clear about what that means. I'm not one of those that get into people's private affairs. But what you do on a public platform for public consumption, that's what I cover. That's what I do for a living. And
yeah, that's what journalists tend to do. Journalists in any genre, whether it's the NBA or, city news or politics. Can't say it's always like that, but that's what it's supposed to be, is dealing with the job that you do. If you're the governor, deal with the job that you do. And then, of course, we know with politics, we know there's a lot of mudslinging, people dealing with personal issues, whatever. Did this governor cheat on his wife? This president do this and this and this? We know the drill. And NBA or NFL, or any type of sports, we mainly I would hope would want to deal with just the sport. And I can say, yeah, we've probably gotten away from that a little bit because we've gotten a little bit too personal. It's not anything new. It's nothing new with LeBron James. They've been doing that for decades, since I've been alive. If a scandal comes out about a player, people will talk about that for a while. It's not new with LeBron James. It happened with Michael Jordan, happened with Magic, Isaiah, and Dennis Rodman, of course. He had a lot of outside interferences. But this is not what's happening here. I don't think this is an outside personal story on Bronny James. There certainly could be. I certainly have heard people talk about his life outside of basketball. I've certainly heard people talk about LeBron James outside of basketball. But this is not it. I think this is not a hill that LeBron James should die on. Because from everything I've heard, Stephen A. has kept it 100 about the boy's skill. And if he wasn't LeBron James' son, if he was just, I don't know, Bronny Williams, would this even be a story? Would anybody say anything about this guy? Well, first of all, he wouldn't get to the NBA. We know that. But if this is so happen in a hypothetical situation, say Bronny Williams got to the NBA and he played at this level, this wouldn't be a story. He wouldn't even be fit enough to be in the obituaries in the back part of a newspaper. Wouldn't even be a story. He wouldn't even register on Google because he's not popular enough. We know why he's a story, because he's his son. We know why he's in the NBA, because he's his son. And we know why he's getting the so-called criticism, because he's his son. I don't know what you want to happen. If you want the praise, then you got to deal with the negativity as well. And I did a show on this the other day about LeBron being the face of the NBA and Anthony Edwards not wanting to be the face. And LeBron was like, why would you want to be the face? Because you got people always talking negative about your life. Why would someone want to be the face? Well, this is not new. They've been doing this for decades, since the NBA became a popular sport to watch. Let's just say the 80s. They've been doing this. It comes with a They do this with every superstar in any genre. Ask Michael Jackson what he went through. Ask Whitney Houston what she went through. And Michael Jordan. This just comes with the territory. Do I agree it should happen? No. It shouldn't be a gossip magazine about your life. But again, pointing back to this situation, this ain't it. LeBron is mad at the wrong person or the wrong people. And I feel like he wanted to take out on Stephen A because he was the closest person he could let go of his anger at. And this is the result of it. Let's go back to it.
If you're in the NBA, that applies to you. I don't want enemies. I live a very good life. I like to make people laugh and smile and have a good time and all of that other stuff. But I also get paid to call it like I see it. And what I said at the time, I stand by what I said. It wasn't even any reporting. The facts were out there. And what I was saying about LeBron is fact-based because of what he said and the things that he said leading up to his son getting drafted and ultimately being in the NBA on the same team as him, as opposed to being a Boston Celtic or a Golden State Warrior. There is no way around that. And when you are born and raised as a journalist, not born and raised, but when you're raised as a journalist professionally, you don't want enemies, but you ain't paid to make friends. You got to call it like you see it. And that's what I did. So again, in closing, I just want to say, I'm not upset. I don't care. I wish that it wasn't in that kind of atmosphere. I wish it was in a private setting.
Yep.
I don't blame LeBron James for being upset. I don't blame him for being angry. I don't blame him for wanting to confront me, because that wasn't a superstar basketball player that confronted me. He played like one again last night, which just reminds you of his focus and his greatness.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a basketball player that approached me last night.
Let's get
that was a daddy.
What happened
No,
on the court. And Stephen A., I appreciate you putting yourself in his shoes.
All right. So that was the end of what we're going to listen to there. So again, it just seems like today's NBA players, for one, it doesn't seem like he wanted a conversation. He just wanted to get his point across and just leave it at that. And I would say he should have taken up on his offer to have a phone conversation to see where he was coming at. Yeah. And I think LeBron James knew this was going to go viral. So this is why he confronted him and the Lakers stadium. And he knew cameras was going to catch this because LeBron James is a very smart guy when it comes to handling the media. So I think he knew this was going to come up. He was going to look like, a winner on the other side. Oh, his father is defending his son. That's what a parent should do. And again, I don't have any problem with that if it's done in the right manner or it's done for the right reasons. I don't think this was done for the right reasons. If you saying he cannot criticize your son, and again, he's not 12, he's not 8 years old. If that was the case and he was criticizing his game, I would be mad at Stephen A. too. I'm like, why are you criticizing an 8-year-old? Let the boy grow. He is 20 years old. He is 1 year away from being able to drink. He is 2 years past being able to go into the military and kill a human being. He can make these decisions on his own. He's the one that says that Bronny James is not affected by the criticism. He just works hard and he doesn't listen to the haters. Now, he doesn't believe that, does he? If he believed that, I don't think he would have confronted Stephen A. I don't think he'd be mad about that. Remember, and maybe it's just him. Maybe it's just LeBron, because remember, he took a break from social media earlier last year when the criticism was really running rampant. When Bronny first got into the league, he took a break from social media, and that was basically, that's what it was. I think it was because of the criticism was getting to him, or maybe it was getting to Bronny and it was getting to him too as a father. But you put him in this situation, they're not going to stop because of this. Stephen A. might stop, but none of these other networks are going to stop. None of these other shows are going to stop. Social media is definitely not going to stop. And one way to shut them up, don't pay attention to it. Turn off your social media. I hate that you would have to do that, but that's just the way of the world. don't pay attention. Don't acknowledge them. And unless, yes, they start going to personal stuff. That I can understand. If they start calling your son garbage, a scrub, some other horrible curse words or whatever, then yeah, I can agree with you. Yeah, stand up for your son if you want to, but not based on his play when the job literally is to talk about the play of the fellow athletes that they cover. No, that makes zero sense. They've been doing that since the NBA became a league. They will continue to do that even after you're gone, whenever that is. This is not going to stop it. And anything, this is probably going to increase it. So these are my thoughts. One more thing I want to stick on too, as it just seems like today's athlete and LeBron James, they want to be fascist. They want to control the media by being part of the media, for one. Him and JJ Redick had a podcast. A lot of these NBA players having podcasts. And people will come up and say stuff like, and I'll probably do a video on that later, like Shaq talking about Stephen Curry being the GOAT, and nobody giving any pushback on that. Not really. These players will say some crazy things like Gilbert Arenas, and nobody gives any pushback. That's not journalism. That's just one-sided talk. The thing that was so great about, going to a barbershop was hearing people's differing opinions. Whether you agreed with it or not, you could hear why someone thought about something, and then you could form an opinion on why you disagree or agree. But these players on these podcasts now, or these shows, they just want to say, well, we played the game, so agree with us. We know what we're talking about. We're never wrong. If you disagree with us, then you're haters. And you're stupid. It's okay to call other people stupid, but not them. And that's not what it's supposed to be. But I feel like today's players that are trying to control whatever story you put out, so it just makes them look like, kings, rainbow, sunshine and rainbows. There's no stormy weather out there. Everything is just great. And you guys know nothing. We know everything. And Stephen A., I don't think he's in any danger because, again, he just signed a $100 million contract with ESPN. But the players, much like, rappers that were taking movie positions from accredited actors, they were taking the position knowing good and well they couldn't act. But they were put into movies because they were putting butts in seats, selling tickets. I don't know if that's ever going to happen where the athletes are going to take real journalist jobs away from them. But you better look out because it could happen. Because you got a lot of NBA players on the TNT show with Charles Barkley, Kenny, and Shaq. Then you got a few players on First Take. Real journalism may start disappearing because these athletes want to control what is actually said, and they want it all in the positive until the people who watch the show give a pushback and say, okay, we want to hear the truth. We don't want to hear just positivity. We want to hear the truth when you tell the news. And real journalists like Will Bond and Stephen A. Smith better watch out. These are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Do you think LeBron was wrong with how he confronted Stephen A.? Do you think Stephen A. was wrong for what he said about Bronny James? And we will see you on the next show for The Last Rewind. You guys have a good day. Peace.